Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through stacks of research to bring you the key insights and those surprising facts you can actually use. Today we're diving into mobile-assisted language learning, or MEL, our mission. Well, it's to unpack what the latest research really says about how effective mobile devices are for language learning. We want to know what makes them work and, what the bigger picture means for your learning journey.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we've compiled quite a rich set of sources. We're talking multiple meta-analyses, those studies that combine results from lots of other studies, plus systematic reviews, and specific experimental studies, too. The goal is really to give you a comprehensive but still concise picture of what's happening.
Okay, and what I think is going to really grab you right from the start, something that definitely jumped out at me, is this finding from a major meta-analysis. It showed a medium to high effect size, 0.722, to be precise for the overall effectiveness of using mobile devices for language learning.
Right. And that number, 0.722, it sounds a bit technical, but basically an effect size tells you how strong the impact is. So zero point 0.7 is considered pretty substantial. It suggests that, the average person using mobile learning would likely outperform about 76% of learners sticking only to, let's say, conventional classroom methods.
That's a really significant difference. It's not just a small boost.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more then. What exactly is mobile-assisted language learning? Why all the buzz in education lately?
Well, at its core, MEL is seen as an extension of both mobile learning in general and also computer-assisted language learning, which has been around longer. A common way to think about mobile learning, maybe not everyone agrees perfectly, but it's popular, is just learning at any time and anywhere. That flexibility is key.
That anytime, anywhere definitely resonates. I mean, we all have our phones with us constantly.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's more than just, a portable textbook. You mentioned untapped potential.
Exactly. Beyond just convenience, mobile devices offer so much more. Think about enhancing interactivity, getting learners involved in situated learning.
Situated learning, meaning like learning Spanish while you're actually trying to order tapas.
Precisely. Learning in the actual context where you'd use the language. Plus, there's potential for augmented reality, game-based learning. Lots of exciting stuff. And, this isn't brand new. The field's been developing for decades. Some say the first small publications go back to 1994.
Wow, okay. So it's got roots.
It does. Initially, the focus was very much on the tech, the devices themselves, their mobility. But what we're seeing now, increasingly, is a shift towards a learner-centered view. It's about how mobile learning can actually help learners interact, collaborate, and build their own understanding.
Right, moving from what can the phone do
Hmm.
to what does the learner actually need. That feels crucial. Which brings us to the big question. How effective are these mobile approaches when it comes down to actually learning a language?
Well, as we mentioned, that overall effect size, 0.722, it's robust. It indicates a medium to high level of effectiveness compared to traditional methods. It really does seem to work.
Okay, so it works overall, but does it work better for certain things? Like, are you better off using an app for vocab drills or for practicing conversation? What specific skills benefit most?
That's a great question. And the research is pretty clear on this. There's a consistently very strong positive effect for vocabulary learning. The effect size there is 0.772. That pops up again and again in different studies.
Okay, so vocabulary is a big win. What else?
Well, mobile devices also show a very large positive effect on developing listening, speaking, and writing skills.
Interesting. Listening, speaking, writing. What about reading?
Reading shows a positive effect too, but there's a bit of footnote there. Many of the studies looking at mobile reading actually used larger devices like laptops or tablets, often in classrooms. So the specific effects of reading, say an article on your smartphone in a coffee shop, that's still kind of an open question, less explored.
Ah, okay, so context matters.
It does. And mobile devices are also proving effective for early literacy skills, things like letter recognition, letter writing showing a solid medium effect size there.
Fascinating how it breaks down by skill. Are there other things that influence how well MEL works? Like, does it matter who is learning or how long they use it?
Absolutely. Two factors really stand out in the research as significant moderator variables, things that change the strength of the effect. Those are the learner's educational level and the duration of the intervention, how long the study lasted.
Okay, tell me about educational level first.
Right, so the effect of using mobile devices actually seems to increase as learners get older. It goes up from kindergarten, preschool, right through to university level. For example, studies with post-secondary students showed a large effect size, 0.843, whereas studies with elementary school kids showed a medium effect size, 0.603.
Hmm. Any theories why?
One possible reason is that the studies with younger kids were mostly done in formal classroom settings. But mobile learning often shows bigger effects when it's used more informally, outside the classroom structure.
That makes sense. Okay, what about the duration? How long you use the app or method?
This one is quite interesting, maybe even counterintuitive. Studies that were very short, like just one session, or completed within 4 weeks, actually showed the largest effects. We're talking a medium to large effect size of 0.796 for interventions under 4 weeks.
Wait, shorter is better? I would have thought the longer you stick with something.
Exactly. It's surprising. The effect of MAL tended to decrease in studies with longer durations, and this raises a big question for researchers because, a lot of studies are relatively short-term just due to practical constraints. We need to understand that drop-off better.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it just novelty wearing off or something else?
That's the debate. It could be novelty, maybe motivation dips if the approach doesn't evolve, or perhaps learners hit a plateau without more advanced support. It really points to needing more long-term research.
Definitely food for thought. So, okay, we know MAL generally works, we know who it works best for, and even for how long, initially at least. Now I'm curious about the how. What does this look like in practice? What tools, what apps, what strategies are actually being used?
Oh, a whole variety. Let's start with the devices. Unsurprisingly, smartphones are the most common, followed by iPads. The fact that so many people already own smartphones has really fueled the bring your own device or BYOD model. It makes MAL accessible.
Right, you don't need special equipment
Yeah,
necessarily.
exactly. And studies show BYOD works well. We're also seeing some exploration of newer things like smartwatches for creating more authentic learning moments.
Okay, devices.
Oh,
What about the applications themselves? Are dedicated learning apps better than just using, say, WhatsApp?
good question. Both general-purpose apps like WhatsApp or Line and specific educational apps show a medium to large positive effect. Educational apps show a slightly larger effect, but the difference wasn't statistically significant in the meta-analysis we looked at.
So both can work.
Yes, though educational apps are often, better designed around specific learning goals and student needs.
Makes sense. And beyond the specific apps, what about the teaching approaches? How are educators using these tools?
This is where it gets really interesting pedagogically. Several approaches stand out. A big one is self-directed learning. This is where the learner takes charge. We see this a lot, like with those Chinese postgraduate students using mobile resources in short bursts, often driven by exam goals, especially for vocabulary.
So learners using it on their own terms.
Right. Then there's situated learning, which we touched on. This shows really strong benefits. It's about engaging learners in meaningful, real-world contexts. Like that zoo field trip example, students getting info based on their location. Or using phone cameras to take photos that represent phrases, helping memory.
That sounds much more engaging than just memorizing lists.
It definitely can be. Collaborative learning also works well with mobile tools. Using things like WhatsApp groups for discussion and interaction among learners shows positive effects.
Okay, collaboration. What about games? Everyone talks about gamification.
Yes, game-based learning GBL is moderately effective for language skills. An interesting finding is that commercial games often seem to incorporate elements of a good game, like uncertainty, user control, adapting challenges, better than some games designed purely by researchers.
Huh. So off-the-shelf games might actually be better sometimes.
Potentially, yes. Gamified vocabulary apps, for instance, have shown significantly better results for learning and retention, plus higher motivation, compared to non-gamified versions. But a critical review also warned that many digital language games might focus too much on the learning and forget the game part, making them less engaging.
A tricky balance to strike.
It is. We also see augmented reality, AR, emerging. AR blends the real world with virtual elements. It can create sensory immersion, positive emotions, like using physical cards that trigger animations for learning Chinese characters. Apparently, those physical cards helped quieter students participate more equally, too.
That's a neat side effect.
Isn't it? Then there's digital storytelling. Students create their own stories with multimedia English subtitles. This boosts motivation, satisfaction, and skills like vocabulary and writing.
Empowering learners to create. I like that.
And finally, tools many might know, spaced repetition systems like Anki. Using those digital flashcards that adapt based on your memory, it shows a clear, positive link to better long-term retention in a second language. Even if learners sometimes say they don't enjoy it as much initially, the method itself is effective.
Wow, okay. That's quite a diverse toolbox, from simple flashcards to AR. It really highlights the flexibility. This naturally leads me to think about the learner at the center of all this. It's all about you, the person learning. What drives people to use MAL or what holds them back? How do individual differences matter?
Generally speaking, learners have pretty positive attitudes towards mobile learning. They really seem to appreciate the individualization, the chance for collaboration, and that feeling of authenticity it can offer. Key factors influencing whether someone actually intends to use MAL are things like, do they think it will be useful? Do they think it will be easy to use? And do they have the right conditions, like good internet, the right device?
That makes sense. Perceived usefulness and ease of use are classic factors for tech adoption, aren't they?
They are indeed.
What about motivation, though? We talked about vocab and exams, but what else gets people engaged?
Well, beyond just learning the language or passing tests, it gets quite interesting. For Chinese postgraduate students, passing exams was a huge driver, as we mentioned. But social image also plays a significant role, particularly for Chinese users.
Mm.
The phone itself can be a bit of a status marker, which ties into learning app usage.
Social image. Didn't expect that connection.
It's there. Also, external factors matter. Things like social support from peers or teachers, even just expressing gratitude on social media platforms, can actually boost academic motivation and engagement. And of course, gamification within the apps themselves is a known motivator. Points, badges, leaderboards. They tap into our competitive or completionist traits.
Right, the little dopamine hits from leveling up. But it can't all be smooth sailing. Are there challenges to keeping people engaged long-term?
Yeah.
Or differences between learners?
Oh, absolutely. Challenges exist. For instance, while many apps like Duolingo have features to help with self-regulation reminders, goal-setting learners can still lack persistence. This often comes down to undeveloped self-regulation skills generally. It suggests maybe we need more explicit training or scaffolding to help learners manage their own mobile learning effectively.
So the app can't do it all. The learner needs skills too.
Precisely. Another fascinating individual difference is ambiguity tolerance. Basically, how okay are you with uncertainty or things not being perfectly clear? Learners with low ambiguity tolerance often struggle and perform worse. But things like readily available computer-mediated dictionaries can actually help reduce their discomfort, allowing them to learn just as well as high-tolerance learners.
That's a really practical insight. Using tools to bridge a psychological gap.
Exactly. And another thing is tapping into a learner's transportable identities.
Transportable identities, what's that?
It means connecting the learning to who they are outside the classroom. Are they a football fan, an amateur photographer, a gamer? Linking language learning to these existing passions can seriously boost personal involvement and effort. Teachers actually play a key role in helping students see how their personal tech use connects to language learning potential.
Making it relevant to their whole life, not just school stuff.
You got it. Now, in terms of other challenges, practical things like small screen sizes come up. Also, managing cognitive load, basically, not overwhelming the learner's brain. For example, if you have shared annotations in a text, but some are irrelevant, that can actually increase cognitive load and hinder learning.
Information overload, even when trying to be helpful.
Right. And there's also sometimes a disconnect between what teachers think makes for a good mobile learning environment and what students prefer. That perception gap needs attention.
Interesting. What about learners who aren't, typical school or university age? Is MAL relevant for older adults?
That's a growing area of interest. Most research is focused on younger learners, but attention is turning towards older adults, say 60 and above. For this group, factors like their digital literacy, how comfy they are with tech, and just being open to new things correlate positively with trying language apps. Owning a smartphone helps naturally. Interestingly, owning desktops or laptops actually correlated negatively with satisfaction for this group, probably because most current apps are really designed for phones first.
So optimization really matters for user experience across age groups.
Definite.
Okay, so if we step back and look at the bigger picture, connecting all these threads, what are the main trends in MAL research right now? And where does the field need to head to really maximize all this potential?
Yeah, looking at the big picture, what does the research community itself say needs to happen next? How do we build on these findings?
Exactly. What are the limitations now, and what's the path forward?
Well, despite all the valuable insights, current research often has limitations. Many studies are quite small scale. They're often conducted over short periods like we discussed, a few weeks, maybe a semester. They're frequently done at just one university or school with small groups of students, and there's rarely any follow-up to see long-term effects. This makes it hard to generalize the findings broadly.
So lots of snapshots, but not enough long-term movies.
That's a good way to put it. There's also the ever-present risk of publication bias, the tendency for studies showing positive or significant results to get published more easily than those showing no effect or negative results.
Right, which can skew the overall picture.
It can. So researchers are really calling for more rigor in study design. That means longer study durations, much larger sample sizes, and using mixed method approaches more often. Mixed methods means combining quantitative data, like test scores, with qualitative data, like interviews or observations, to get a richer understanding of how and why things are happening.
Going beyond just if it works to how it works.
Exactly. There's also a recognized need to focus more on behavioral changes in learners, not just knowledge acquisition. Are their learning habits changing? Are they becoming more autonomous? And future studies should definitely explore areas where MEL's potential isn't fully realized yet, like supporting more advanced language learning or really integrating cultural content effectively.
Okay, so more rigor, broader scope, focus on behavior and advanced skills. Any other specific recommendations?
Yes, a few more concrete things. Researchers recommend continuing to explore the unique pedagogical potential of mobile tech, especially those situated learning and collaborative features. Also, investigating non-cognitive outcomes. So not just test scores, but things like learner attitudes, motivation, anxiety, the affective side of learning. How does MEL make learners feel?
The emotional component, yeah.
Right. There's also excitement about exploring mobile learner-generated content, more having learners create things with their devices that integrate learning into their actual lives. For game-based learning, the advice is maybe use more well-designed commercial games. Or if you're designing educational games, really focus on those core good gaming elements to make them truly engaging.
Don't forget the game in game-based learning.
Precisely. And finally, a really strong call for more focus on self-regulation training and scaffolding. We need to better support students in managing their own learning, especially when using MEL voluntarily outside of class time.
Helping learners develop those skills to make the most of these tools independently.
Exactly. That seems crucial for sustained success.
Wow. Okay, what an incredibly thorough deep dive into mobile-assisted language learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's really clear that these devices in our pockets aren't just, convenient distractions. They are genuinely powerful catalysts that are transforming language learning, offering just incredible potential when we use them thoughtfully, strategically.
Absolutely. The potential is definitely there.
So thinking about everything we've covered today, the frankly surprising effectiveness overall, the specific tools and approaches that really work, the psychological factors, the motivations, the challenges. How might you, listening now, rethink your own language learning journey? Or maybe even just how you use your phone for any kind of personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
Could you intentionally leverage some of these insights? Maybe it's about finding that perfect situated learning moment next time you're out, or perhaps leaning into the gamification of an app you already use, or even just being more mindful of managing your own focus and self-regulation while using it. The power, it seems, is quite literally in your pocket. Something to think about.